Pittsburgh Steeler Nation, we are less than 1 week away from our season opener against the New York Football Giants. And to get you ready, we're going to break down what has happened this past week, a busy week for the Pittsburgh Steelers, primarily because of the roster cut down. There's a lot to get into. We also extended Cam Hayward. He is going to be in Pittsburgh for the next 5 years. Plus, we also brought in a couple former Steelers, which was expected, but we are going to get into all of it today. But first, be sure to like this video, share this video on social media, and subscribe to this channel. So let's get into this. We'll start off with the roster cutdowns. Now, I will say that I was a bit surprised with a few of the moves. We'll start off at the top with quarterbacks. We're going to get into Josh Dobbs in a minute, who the Steelers just brought back, which I kind of predicted that would happen after he got cut by Jacksonville, which, by the way, in the description you will find a link to the article that I wrote on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, fan post article on the cutdown breakdown. It was just about the good, the bad, and the signings that need to happen now. And a couple of them already have happened. So I hope you go and check that video out, especially if you are, or check the article out, rather, if you are a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. But at quarterback, the Steelers kept the three they had last year with Ben Roethlisberger, Mason Rudolph, and Duck Hodges. Duck Hodges has now been released, may end up being on the practice squad, with, of course, Josh Dobbs now being that third quarterback. At the running back position, the Steelers kept 4 running backs. Now, the Steelers signed Wendell Smallwood a couple weeks ago. Didn't really make a whole lot of sense, that move. I know there were some injuries at the running back position, but he did not make the team. Nobody really thought he would. And Kareth White, a guy that I really liked last year, he did not make the roster either. So Jalen Samuels was the 4th running back. Of course, the other 3 that were near locks were James Conner, Benny Snell, and Anthony McFarland. Receiver, this was a little bit of a surprise. The Steelers have kept 6 receivers for as long as I can remember. It's been a while since the Steelers have only kept 5 receivers, but they did this year. They keep, of course, Juju Smith-Schuster, James Washington, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. And for the 5th receiver, it was not Deion Kane. It was not Ryan Switzer. Most people thought both those guys were near locks to make the roster. Neither of them made it. Ryan Switzer is gone. Deion Kane is on the practice squad. And Ray McLeod gets the 5th spot. Now, I do like McLeod. He's a decent route runner, can make cuts very quickly, has some explosiveness in the open field, very good up the middle, is very dangerous on crossing routes. I liked him at Clemson. He was on my list of potential late round steals a couple years back when he was coming out into the NFL. So not a horrible receiver at all. Just a little bit surprised to see that happen. Tight end, the Steelers kept 3, Eric Ebron, Vance McDonald, and Zach Gentry. And we'll get into possible tight ends the Steelers could sign again in a few minutes. I'm not a big Zach Gentry fan, as most of you probably know if you've watched any of my Pittsburgh Steelers videos. I do not like Zach Gentry. If you've watched me talk about Michigan, either. I don't like Zach Gentry. I never have. So the Steelers need to get an upgrade there with the 3rd tight end spot, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. The offensive line, the Steelers kept 9 offensive line, but I figured if we were going to keep 9, the 9th lineman would have been Derwin Gray. However, he is on the practice squad along with a couple other tackles, but the one who ended up making the roster was J.C. Hasnauer, which this is one of those times where you almost have to just give Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin the benefit of the doubt, because we didn't get to see these players play in the preseason. So obviously he impressed, because nobody was really talking about him making the roster. He was one of the huge shocks. I would have rather had Derwin Gray, but again, I haven't seen them at all during the past month. So, of course, the coaches, I'm just going to have to give them the benefit of the doubt. And to the defensive side of the ball, Dan McCullers is gone, which I am kind of happy about. I was a little bit hopeful to see Henry Mondeau. He ended up making the practice squad. I was hoping he would have a chance at making the roster. Instead, the Steelers decided to keep both Isaiah Buggs and 7th round pick Carlos Davis. Davis was a little bit surprised to me. I just didn't see him making it, but he did test well at the combine. We'll see if he can translate that into some production on the field. The Steelers, one of the ones I was most disappointed in was that the Steelers cut Tuzar Skipper. I would have rather had him than Ola Adini. Steelers cut Skipper on Friday. He was the first one that they cut. It was kind of a surprise to me. He was excellent in the preseason last year, second-year pro of Toledo. Had some very explosive moments in the preseason. Just a little bit surprised to see him go. But obviously the Steelers must feel pretty confident with what they have there with Alex Highsmith and Ola Adini. So, only time will tell there. The Steelers also only kept 4 inside linebackers, so they're thin at linebacker overall. Of course, Devin Bush, Vince Williams, Ulysses Gilbert, and then Robert Spillane. Spillane, I guess he can play some special teams, but he's not even that great at that. I don't think he should have made this roster at all, but the Steelers didn't have anyone else. And we'll get into one sign that I think the Steelers must make. This would be a total difference maker in terms of depth. If injuries were to happen, this could keep our defense afloat. And we will get into that, so stay tuned. If you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, there's one player that nobody's talking about that needs to be picked up. He is a diamond in the rough. We need to pick him up now, so stay tuned. But then the other surprise came in with the defensive backs. I thought there was a chance the Steelers may only keep 9. The Steelers kept 11. Of course, Sean Davis was just signed, so I'm not sure if that will affect the safeties. The Steelers really need to just end it with Marcus Allen. I didn't like the pick when he was drafted. I still don't like the pick now. He's too slow to play even linebacker, in my opinion. He's not that great in coverage, not great awareness. The Steelers ended up keeping Jordan Dangerfield behind Minkah Fitzpatrick and Terrell Edmonds as well. Curtis Riley is going to be moved to the practice squad, as well as Antoine Brooks. So there's a little bit of a mix-up with the safeties. But at corner, James Pierre, he was an undrafted player, I believe out of Florida Atlantic. He's not super fast, but Jeffrey Benedict from Behind the Steel Curtain put up a really good film breakdown of him on Monday morning. So you can still go and check that out. BehindTheSteelCurtain.com was a really good breakdown. Things that I gained from it was that he was very good with his hands, especially up towards the line. I think Benedict compared him to Joe Hayden in terms of his hand usage near the line of scrimmage. And also had very good field awareness, can play all over the field, has some versatility. So, we'll see what happens with Pierre. I didn't really want him to make the roster, but, obviously the Steelers saw something in him as well. I'm going to have to give him the benefit of the doubt in a year like this. Now, to what I think was very interesting. On the article, if you go out and check that article I wrote, you will see that 2 players that I thought should be considered to be brought back were Joshua Dobbs and Sean Davis. Both of them have already been brought in. I practically knew the Steelers would do this because of the lack of safety depth. When Sean Davis was cut, nobody really thought he would be. It was just kind of a no-brainer for the Steelers. I've never been a huge Davis fan, but he does improve our safety depth, so I do like that move. I also like the move that the Steelers made to bring in Josh Dobbs. My first choice, as you will see, was Tyler Huntley, who got cut by the Baltimore Ravens. I really like his upside. I think he would have been better than Dobbs, but I'll take anyone over Duck Hodges, okay? It was definitely... Duck is never going to be throwing a pass again in the NFL, nor should he, and you will see that because nobody is going to sign this guy. Josh Dobbs has much more ability as a runner, has a better arm, and at some points, his accuracy isn't a strength, but it's no worse than Duck's. So there is no way that the Steelers are worse off by that signing. To other players that I think the Steelers should consider bringing in, I'm going to get with my most important one first, the one I was telling you about at linebacker, Chris Orr. And I was talking about at draft time. Of course, I always have my late round sleepers and my undrafted free agents that we should sign. Chris Orr, I was all over this year. And, just watch the tape at Wisconsin. He had 11 and a half sacks this past year. And, of course, we saw Zach Bond getting drafted in, I think, the 3rd round by the Saints. Or second round, either second or 3rd round. Chris Orr was the one that got a lot of the pressure off of Zach Bond. Orr ended up with 11 and a half sacks himself. He became a much better tackler this past year, much better in coverage as well, better awareness, he was just better instinctually, and he was better communicator. He processed information a whole lot quicker this past year, and if you just watch him at Wisconsin, he was not as indecisive as he was in previous years. He was quick. He ran a 4.6 at his pro day. I believe that he plays just as fast or faster than that on tape. Is very good closing speed as well. So to me, this is a no-brainer. 10 times out of 10, nobody can say that Robert Spillane is better than Chris Orr. And I believe Chris Orr does have starter upside. And people in Carolina were actually talking him up. I was surprised to see him get cut. I'm sure there were a lot of people in Carolina that didn't see him getting cut as well. But of course, in a shortened off season, it's hard for undrafted rookies to make the roster. I understand that. But the Steelers need to bring in Chris Orr. He could be a potential starter down the line 3-4 years from now. I really believe that. I'm not joking, okay? This guy, turn on the tape at Wisconsin. This guy was a beast that nobody talked about, one of the most undervalued players in all of college football. This would be a huge signing for the Steelers. It would cost next to nothing. Come on, Kevin Colbert. You can do this. Sign Chris Orr. You made some nice moves the past few days. Finish off this an excellent week and sign Chris Orr. This would be an excellent move for the organization. I'm looking at some other players that are still available. Xavier Grimble, we talked about tight end, potential upgrade at tight end. The Steelers have had Grimble before. The one good thing about the signings of Davis and Dobbs is that they've been with the Steelers before. So you don't have to worry a whole lot about, they already know our system, that, that it's not that they don't have to learn a bunch in a short period of time before the season starts. They already know what we're trying to do. And Xavier Grimble does know that as well. That would be one reason why I think the Steelers may consider bringing him in. They seem to be pretty content with Zach Gentry. I'm not, of course. But another tight end I'd consider bringing in a couple rookies, actually. Mitchell Wilcox. He's the guy that got hit in the head with a ball at the combine because he wasn't paying attention. Another guy that I think should be considered is Troy Fumagalli. He had some nice moments at Wisconsin as well. He's also a decent blocker. Charlie Tamopaw, another rookie from Portland State this past year. And then moving to the secondary, if the Steelers wanted to upgrade from James Pierre, Rasul Douglas was cut, Nick Nelson was cut. At safety, of course, Sean Davis is out, so don't really need to worry about the safeties. Maybe Madre Harper, Steven Denmark, a corner. There are several decent corners that end up getting cut. On the offensive line, I'm not a J.C. Hausenhower fan, so I would say sign Kelvin Throckmorton. I love Throckmorton. I loved him in college. He's not super mobile, but he reminds me a little bit of the Ramon Foster who the Steelers have had before. I believe he could play some guard, kind of be that big-bodied presence that will be somewhat consistent. I really think that Calvin Throckmorton could be a decent player, plus he has an excellent name. So the one thing I'm going to finish out on today is the Cameron Hayward signing. And I talked about this before, how the Steelers have a lot of players that are up for contract in this upcoming year. Of course, you have Juju Smith-Schuster, Bud Dupree, Mike Hilton, Matt Filer. There's a lot of players the Steelers will have to make some tough decisions on this upcoming offseason. But even though it didn't make the most sense financially, it was key that the Steelers kept Cameron Hayward. I said the Steelers should make this a priority. They did, and I have to give Kevin Colbert some credit on that. He brought him in, of course, it was a little bit pricey. 4 years extension worth $71 million. So he's going to be here for the next 5 years if you count this year. And it was not a bad signing. He is 32 years old. This is the downside of it. This is like the highest contract, the highest paid any defensive lineman over 30, I believe, has gotten in NFL history. But that said, he could quite arguably be the second best defensive lineman in the league behind Aaron Donald. I know Chris Jones is really good. There's a lot of really good defensive linemen in this league, but Cameron Hayward is one of the most underrated players. And what's most important for the Steelers is that he is the leader of this defense. He's been a team captain for quite a long time. I believe he was just named a team captain again this year with Ben Roethlisberger. He is a leader of this defense, and leadership is something you can't replace. The Steelers can replace Juju Smith-Schuster. They may have already with Chase Claypool. I really like his upside. I think he can be a wide receiver one in the future. A lot of people like Deontay Johnson and James Washington. I'm not as big on Washington. But same thing with Bud Dupree. The Steelers drafted Alex Highsmith. He apparently had a phenomenal camp. He's showing flashes. So Steelers could probably live without Dupree next year. And Mike Hilton, he's stunk in coverage. I think that the Steelers should give Cameron Sutton the starting job. I don't think they're going to, but I think they should. So, the Steelers can live without all the other players, but Cam Hayward was the one player that was going to be really difficult to replace. So I'm glad the Steelers signed him to a long-term deal. So that's what I have. Week 1, the New York Giants. This is the sad part, Steelers fans. I'm going to predict a loss. I'm going to say the Giants beat us 24-20, and you're probably screaming at your screen saying, what are you thinking, Andrew? I'm going to go lay it all out like I have before. Joe Judge, special teams coordinator from New England. What does New England pride themselves on? Preparation. Oh, and cheating. Sorry, Kaliba. And sorry to all my other Patriots fans that view and stuff. I'm not trying to be too mean over that. But preparation is one thing that they do pride themselves on. And the Steelers under Mike Tomlin, we've always started off slow, and we play down to lesser opponents. So I think those are red flags for this game. Ben Roethlisberger, there have been conflicting reports. Some people say he looks excellent. Others saying he's not so sharp. Accuracy's been a little bit off. His spirals haven't been tight. And Ben sometimes starts off the season a little bit rusty. We saw what he did. He started off rusty with the little bit he had last year. Of course, we'll see how he is after the surgery. But I'm a little bit concerned about Rust playing down to a lesser opponent. But I think this is a game the Steelers need to win because week 2 against Denver isn't going to be that easy. So I hope the Steelers can pull it out, but I've seen this happen too many times, and I've been right several times on, Steelers losing to lesser opponents. So unfortunately, I'm going to say that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to drop this game. I'm hoping that we don't. If the Steelers can force turnovers on Daniel Jones, the Steelers should still be able to win this game, but I have my questions. So I'm going to pick the Giants to win 24-20. Hoping it's different, but I could see it going in the other direction. But nonetheless, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have anything to add, if you're a Steelers fan, if you have anything you disliked about the roster cut down, any of the moves the Steelers have made since then, Dustin Colquitt, Steelers brought in a punter. I'm thrilled about that. Bye-bye, Jordan Berry. Hallelujah. We have a new punter that can kick more than 30 yards. So hopefully that works out as well. But if you have any other players that you think the Steelers should consider signing, put it in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you. But that is going to do it all for today. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you on the next one.